Please unmute yourself if you have a question. Otherwise, we'll get started. All right. Take a moment, feet pointed straight ahead on your mat, hip bone distance apart. Take a big deep breath, and not only do I want you to feel like your ribs expand in a lateral direction, but almost like your hips get heavy to the ground. So bend your knees a little bit and let your ribs have more space so that this stacking of the lumbar vertebrae and the low back, when we get into this neutral position, then we have some curve here and some curve here, but essentially the bones are stacked. And today I want you to imagine that as your hips go down and your rib cage moves up, that the bones actually aren't touching, that there's this freedom that happens in the body when we can make more space between the vertebrae, between even the bones at the ankle and the knee, that we're working on this back side of our body a little bit, this posterior chain, to create lift between the bones. So keep that, call it like big and full through your rib cage, and then micro bend at your knees, slide your shoulders up towards your ears, and then press them down. And as you go into that anti-shrug, still keep your ribs lifted and full. And then let your shoulders drop down and pull them back up. Slight bend in your knees today. And just play with where we can make more space. Just notice if your arm bones are hanging in a similar way on each side. And then open your arms all the way up and release. And again, lengthen. So a little bend at the knees, get really long in your torso, and open those arms up. Feel the muscles on the back side of your shoulders and bring them back in. Open and in. And I have that little micro bend happening at my knees again. So I'm kind of creating that lift. Not just being heavy down on the floor, but like what you would need if you were going to jump. That lift off the floor. Nice. Into a shoulder roll, up and back and around. That same kind of position at the legs. Like have it be so that if you needed to bounce a little bit while you were doing that, you could find the freedom. And up and forward and around so that you would be movable, not just steady and stable in your posture, but what would it take for you to have some buoyancy, some lift backwards? And then I want you to do some abdominal work here. So take your abdominal, take your rib cage, create that lift again, like you're lifting your whole rib cage up. Make your lower legs so that you have that little bit of bounce. And then I want you to take a deep breath in and then pull your belly all the way in, but just so that you get as long as possible, almost like you're pulling your abdominals in so much that you're lifting your rib cage. You're like pushing your organs up into your ribs a little bit. Think of that lift there, and then relax your belly. Do it again. Deep breath in. And then pull the belly toward your spine, but leave that arch in your back and create as much lift in your rib cage as possible. And then release it down. And see if you can just make more space in your spine. One more time, big rib cage in, then pull the belly up and in, get narrow and tall and long, and release. Good. Keep that little bounce happening while you do elbow curls, or just the ability to have that bounce. Elbow curls all the way together and all the way back. Ten more. And then just reach all the way up to the sky, one arm at a time, lifting up. Again, one side and the other, and create that same length in your spine. You're getting taller. Find some space between the vertebrae. And up onto your toes, all the way up. Feel the calves on the back side. Glutes lifting, your butt up in the air, rib cage from the back side of your body lifting up as well. And release it back down. Nice. Into standing arm circles. Go ahead and grab your block. Place your block between your upper inner thighs. Squeeze in on it. I can change colors just to make it more visible. There we go. Squeeze in on it. And then standing arm circles. Fold your fingers into palms, into the golfer's grip. Squeeze in. Little micro bend today with this same lift in your rib cage. So bend at your knees, squeeze in on the block. Pinch your shoulder blades together on your back. Feel that move toward your spine. Let that movement of the shoulder blade toward the spine talk to the muscles that run that whole length of your spine. And again, even here, could you have that little bounce? And backwards. Squeeze. And release. Now do arm circles with not such a squeeze, but try to push your shoulder blades apart. So same arm circle position, little bounce here. Push your shoulder blades all the way apart, as far away as they'll go on your back. Take a big breath in the space between your arms and then circle again. So you're starting to engage the lat and the serratus. Maybe we'll only get a few circles here. My shoulders are already tired in that position. Whew, without that upper back support. Same thing here. Push apart like your arms are on pulleys. That rib cage stays buoyant. And backwards. Excellent. Release. Then from this position, hold in, stick your booty out a little bit, get full in your rib cage, and then push your arms all the way forward and then pull them all the way back. Move the shoulder blade over and around your rib cage. Get more round in your upper back. See if you can make it round, and then squeeze those shoulder blades onto your back. Get that full protraction and retraction happening in that area. Good, my deltoids are tired again. Whew. And release. Bring your hands to the top of your head. Bring your elbows in. Find that same big rounding in your rib cage today. Bend your knees a little, and then move up and over to the side and start to press your ribs up toward the ceiling while you pull your elbows in narrow toward your nose. And then come up down. And as you lift, think the bones are not touching. They just get to float on the fluid that's between each of the spaces, and release it down and up. Elbows narrow toward your nose. Keep bending over. Breathe. Inhale, come up. Exhale, release. Inhale, up and over. Exhale, come up. One more time. Down. Up and over. Side bend. Up. Down. Last one. And back in. Come onto your hands and knees. Cats and dogs. Round, pressing your shoulders off your back. Get as round as possible between the vertebrae. Even here, think about that the bones are floating. So get really long in your side body. And then tip your whole pelvis forward like you're dumping water out of your belly. See if you can squeeze the muscles on your back and in the front of your hips, your hip flexors. Those lumbar erectors and the hip flexors work together to tilt the pelvis forward. And then take it back up into rounding and into your dog pose. Look up, lengthen your neck. Again, even in your neck, ears come back over your head and then chin goes forward. Bones are not touching. Think of the space of the discs and the fluid that's in there that help make that space so that we can get that smooth slide. And then come down onto your belly and fold your forehead. Lengthen your whole belly forward on the floor. And then tuck your front ribs a little bit underneath. Take 5 deep breaths into the space in the upper back and rib cage, making your ribs move in an east to west direction. Big and full, 5 breaths. Exhale completely. Think about lengthening your ribs away from your pelvis as you draw in. Big inhale. Exhale completely. Through your nose if you can. Lengthen, make space. Relax your shoulders. Again, inhale. Exhale. Draw it in as you exhale all the air out. Squeeze it in. Inhale. Exhale. One more. Awesome. Cross your right ankle over your left knee. Make your body a little bit still. Lift that leg up with that ankle crossed over. Knee comes off the floor. Find the glute. Release it back down. 10 lifts. Lift, lower, keeping the knee high. That'll be harder. You may feel other muscles want to compensate to try and pull that back into alignment, but see if you can get that up. Find your glute. Release it back down. And then second side, bending the left leg, moving the knee out to the side, crossing the ankle over the other leg, and then lifting that leg up just an inch off the floor and releasing it back down. 10 lifts. And releasing it down. And then bend both knees. Let's find your hip flexors. So if you do this and you notice that your back just arches way off the floor, then walk your entire rib cage forward and see if you can just make some more length in the front of the hip and in your back. And then relax, get full in your ribs. So take that deep breath. And then press your knees down into the floor. And it's okay right now if you start to feel a lengthened space with this low back arch here. So press your knees down, hip flexors active. You can flex your feet. And then almost like you're trying to draw your belly another inch forward to make space between the vertebrae on the floor. Then release your hips. Big breath in. Press your knees straight down into the floor. Feel the front hip flexors engage. And then try to lengthen your belly away from you. And find that low back gentle arch that has space. Belly long. And then release your hips. Again, press down. Find your hip flexors. Then lengthen. And release. Gently press up onto your hands and knees. Come to kneeling first. Let's do a little wrist work. So in kneeling, just see how that all feels. Into this kneeling position where the quads and hip flexors are having to be long. And then just go ahead and bend your elbows and go back and forth. And some wrist circles. Turn the forearm over, elbows stay stable, just the forearm. Okay, now come down to kneeling. Let's go left arm, hand behind your head, big circle with your elbow. Up and around, 10 times. And then same hand, let's go 5 circles backwards, big circle, and then forward and back. Up and around, back to the hip, and then back and up and around. One more for 5. And then switch hands, elbow, up and back and around, big circle. Feel the shoulder blade move up onto the back. And then arm in front of you, big circle back. And then from the hip back up and around. Everything else stable, big arm movement. And then again, get your hands really stable for cats and dogs. Full palm on the ground, fingers are there to help you balance and stabilize. Excellent. Onto your back. Let's work on any hip disparity that might still be in there. We've done a lot of shoulder work today. So feel your body just come down to the ground and decide how much low back arch feels right for you. Shoulders gently tucked underneath you. Cross the left ankle over the right knee. Let it come all the way down to the floor. And then look left. Push your left knee away from you, opening up that hip, and breathe. The ankle and leg connection becomes like a point so that you close that kinetic chain a little bit. And you get a point that you can move off of or have some leverage from, which gets those deeper muscles in and around your pelvis to actually do some work. Hold and breathe. Come on up and switch sides. And open the space along that side body. Feel the connection point between the ankle and the knee, and then gently open that knee. And release. Both feet on the floor, pelvic tilts. Tuck it under and lengthen. Flatten and arch. Both feet on the ground. Send your knees away from you and lift your hips off the floor. Feel your hamstrings and your butt muscles and your lumbar spine working. And even here, think of the rib cage getting more buoyant. So see if you can walk your ribs and your hips apart from each other so that they're moving in two different directions. And then let your hips come down. Lift it back up again. And then hips move that way, ribs move this way. Let there be as much space as possible between the top of your hip and the bottom of your ribs. And then come on down. Keep going like that. Send them that way, lengthen, release. Let's do 20 lifts. And release. And then come onto your hands and knees. Think of sending your hips back as far as you're able to, ribs coming forward, and then take your right hand underneath your body so that you're threading it through, opening space in your upper back, pulling that shoulder blade off your back, and starting the gentle upper body twist. Switch. And then back up. Cats and dogs once more. Really push your shoulder blades off your back. Let them squeeze in. Get as much space between your shoulder blades as possible so you work these side muscles on the side of your body. Nice. Now keep that full round position in your upper back. Tuck your toes under and start to put that low back arch back in your back. So hips backwards, rib cage forward. Feel your belly get long and strong. Hold and go ahead and set your knees down. Nice work. Have a seat. Take your legs wide. We'll do some femur rotations. So even here, how would you get buoyant enough that you can put a little bit of a low back arch in your back and feel like your ribs were lengthening up off your belly? And then hands behind you to help create that lift and that arch. And then move the legs out and in. Find rotation in the femurs. 10 times. And then slightly wider. Same thing, get tall and long in your upper body. Even putting that arch in your low back. Find freedom for those femurs to move. Go ahead and move one at a time. In, feel those muscles that rotate that leg bone, and out. Other side, in all the way, out. Find those hip muscles. Keep the hip down, but move the leg bone in and out. And the other side, in and out. One more time. In and out and Excellent. Bring it up. Cross the left ankle over the right knee. Take that left hand behind you. Sit tall. If it feels okay to you today, twist. You have a spiral line of muscles that goes connected through the fascia from the front of this down the side of your body, across the back of your body, and all the way up to that neck. So when we do things like this, you also, I missed the obliques. Internal and external oblique are part of that also. So that whole line spirals from the front of the leg, across the body, into the back, up to the back of the neck. That whole line gets worked when we do this. Breathe. And untwist. Switch sides. Cross it over, sit really tall, and pull the toes back. So anterior tib, up the front, across the oblique, around the back, into the shoulder, into the back of the neck. That whole spiral line gets work here. Through the fascia. Notice the difference between one side and the other. Still thinking of getting as much lift. Root your seat down so that you can lift up and out of that to make the bones so that they're not really touching. But they get to gently move over those discs. And release it. Come down onto your back. Find your butt muscles once again. Everything stable on the floor. Feel your glutes. Squeeze and release your butt muscles. Let's go hands, elbows together in front of you to keep your upper back just a little bit round today. Feel the muscles on the side of your body pull up, and see if even here you can feel that arch in your low back. So just before you even move on the ground, the thoracic back is being pushed on because we're on the ground. That usually helps us open it up. But some of us have a thoracic back that could be a little more round, and that would give us better access to these muscles on the side of our body that help us do pull-ups and some handstands and some things like that. So then put that rounding in your upper back, put a little arch into your lower back, and then find your butt muscles. Squeeze and release your glutes. Tighten and release. Squeeze, release. Can you get them working? If you can't find them at all, go ahead and straighten your legs out on the floor. Keep that little arch or a pretty big arch in your back right now, and then find them that way. Squeeze, release. Squeeze, release with an arch in your back. Does one side feel like it's lagging? If you can keep that arch, keep that rounding, that spinal position, and find them with your knees bent, do it that way, pulling your glutes towards you. And release. Nice. Finish up last, let's do 10 more squeezes and then grab your block. Put it between your knees. Keep that position that you found. You could even tuck your hands underneath the small of your back. Lengthen your rib cage away from you. That would be a big internal rotation for that shoulder. And then squeeze and release the block with the inside of your knees. Hug in, release. Hug in, release. Go ahead and release that block and roll over onto your side. Come all the way up. From this kneeling position, put 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, and do a runner stretch, assisted runner stretch. Still trying to roll an arch into your low back. Lengthen your belly. See if you can tip your pelvis over the front of the leg bone and put an arch in that back. Hold it and breathe. Tighten your thighs, bring the weight to the inside of your feet. And come on down, switch. Taking it up. Weight to the insides of your feet. Breathe. Once again, trying to roll an arch into your low back like you're dumping water out of the front of your pelvis. And then come down and into a downward dog pose. So start in that side body long, lot of space, gentle rounding in your upper back, put a curve in your low back, tip your pelvis over your leg bones, and then press up. Knees bent, downward dog, pressing your upper body into extension, keeping that arch in your lower back. Letting your heels gently move toward the ground. Think one more time of hips away from shoulders. They can even move a little bit. Get as much length and space in your side body as possible. And then come up to standing. And then come up onto your toes 10 times, all the way up, all the way down. Feel the back side of your calves once again. Lift the back side of your body up from the calves into the hamstrings, into the glutes, into the low back muscles, all the way up between the shoulder blades and even into your neck. That whole line of posterior chain As you go up, let it lift you, that whole line of muscles, and down. And then out. Once again, with the idea that the bones are not touching, go up there. That if they just stack on each other, then when we wear the cartilage out, then we'll wear out our bodies. But if we have this floating idea of this lift, then we can continue to maintain space between all of our bones. And then pigeon toe, roll the weight to the insides of your feet. Feel that backside. Once again, lift and lower. And come back to straight. Last ones. And then just feel, how does that move? Can you move your hips around? Give them a circle. You go up on your toes, can you still do the same thing? Can you move your pelvis independent from your leg bones? Side to side. Take your arms and just feel how they flow and move a little bit. Nice. And then come into whatever position you'd like to come into for your meditation. Lying down, legs up. Seated. So wherever you're at, you can choose today, close your eyes or keep them open. Feel the body resting on the floor wherever it is and feel that connection. And then feel breath move through the body. And then allow the idea of body as a container to just be released. Your body is also in this open state of awareness. That's always at the base of our being, this peaceful space of silence. And body is inside of that space. But what arises in the body-mind comes inside of that quiet, open, wide space. So notice what else arises in that space. And if the mind wants to engage, just give it a job of the lightest concentration on breath. Recognize that there is no effort needed to find that peaceful place. It already exists. Layers of distraction can just simply be tuned down to allow for a noticing of this calm, open, peaceful place. This place is your nature. We tune our beings to experience this peaceful, joyful, open space. This space is not the place of thoughts, beliefs, relationships. It's just your core of your being. When we say I am, it comes from this place. This place is only available in the moment. But is available at every moment that you choose to tune in to this space. If there's anything else holding on, see if you can one more time open into the space. And then just invite a gentle heart vibration full of light to just fill this space that you've found Just bask in that warm, joyful light. And if there's anything in your energy field that needs a little adjustment, allow that light to just fill the batteries of your cells. Flip the polarity of those cells into the right direction if they need to be adjusted. If there's tension or pain from anything, allow light to just flood into that space for a moment. Allow the light to be that space between the bones in your body. And then once again, gain control over your breath. And feel your body on the ground. And keep that bit of joyful light in your awareness as you move through your day.